BJ Mafia, what's poppin'? So the Dallas Cowboys will be traveling to Northeast Florida to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars, and both the Dallas Cowboys and Jacksonville Jaguars are coming off wins last weekend, and both very different wins for both of these teams. While the Dallas Cowboys did go and beat the Houston Texans at home at AT&T Stadium, that was not a win, and that was not a victory that a lot of Cowboys fans want to hang their hats on. The Dallas Cowboys essentially blew that game to the Houston Texans, and Dak Prescott and that team was able to make a late drive down the field in order to punch it in and get the victorious win, because that was a nail-biting game if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan. The Jacksonville Jaguars on the flip side come off a huge and impressive victory in which the score does not show just how much of a beatdown that was. At Nashville, the Jaguars get their first win at Nissan Stadium since 2013 over a divisional opponent in the Tennessee Titans. Both the Dallas Cowboys and the Jacksonville Jaguars have huge playoff implications for this game. The Jaguars are looking to get back and regain control of the AFC South, especially coming off a huge victory last weekend versus the Tennessee Titans. And the Dallas Cowboys, not only can they clinch a playoff berth with a win in Week 15 over the Jaguars, the Dallas Cowboys can also get right back into the thick of things and try to regain lead of the NFC East if the Dallas Cowboys can get this win, stack a couple of them, and also if the Philadelphia Eagles can lose a couple of games. We will see if that happens, because the Cowboys will also be playing the Eagles in a few weeks. But as I do with every single preview video, I always talk about the opponent first, and that's going to come with the Dallas Cowboys. I'll talk about the Cowboys on both sides of the ball. I'll transition into the Jaguars, and at the very end, I'll give my final thoughts and verdict at the end. So let's actually talk about the Dallas Cowboys first and foremost. Now, for you guys that didn't see, and I'm not really going to play the clip, I just quickly want to address it, that Micah Parsons was basically questioning on a podcast whether or not Jalen Hurts is the reason for the Philadelphia Eagles and all of their success, or whether he's really just a system quarterback that is thriving off the success of all the skill position players around him and how immensely talented that defense is. I want to say, obviously, I'm not playing football at a high elite level. I'm not an NFL player, and I'm not one of the best young players in the game in Micah Parsons at 23 years of age, but I think he's a little bit crazy and he's going out on a limb. I understand it's a divisional rival. I understand these guys hate each other. I understand the rivalry, but he's just flat out wrong. Jalen Hurts is the league-leading MVP candidate as of right now, top 2 at minimum, and Jalen Hurts has absolutely ascended himself into that franchise quarterback conversation. He's an MVP caliber player, as I've stated, and he has absolutely dominated this season no matter who he has played. Jalen Hurts is that guy. He's proven all the critics wrong, and he's the biggest reason for the Philadelphia Eagles' success. Just quickly wanted to address that. Micah Parsons, you're a great guy. Come on, you're better than that. Now, kind of talking about the Cowboys and actually football, let's talk about their offense first and foremost, and I've got to talk about quarterback at the helm, Dakota Rain Prescott. Now, Dak Prescott has obviously been a little bit underwhelming since receiving that new contract extension just last season, and the most recent and notable performance that I can recall from Dak Prescott, even though he's had its moments shining here and there, has really got to be week 1 of last season, coming off that leg injury versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That was the last time Dak Prescott really stuck out onto the screen from me, because he is just an inconsistent roller coaster of a quarterback, and that's basically been his whole career. He's a very good quarterback. He's not a great quarterback. He's not a bad quarterback. He's just always just been an average guy at best. To me, he's just a guy, and I'm not here to knock Dak Prescott. I'm not here to actually sit here and tear the man down. I'm sure a lot of Cowboys fans feel that way. I'm just giving my open, honest opinion about him, and there's no bias coming from this. I genuinely just think he's just a guy. His playoff performances show that, and also just really the roller coaster and trajectory of his entire career has shown that. He did not deserve that large of a contract that he got from Jerry Jones, but Jerry Jones's hands were tied behind his back, essentially. He had to pay Dak, and I understand the premise of that, but Dak Prescott, 14 touchdowns, 1,800 yards, 9 interceptions. He's thrown the most interceptions in the NFL, tied with Davis Mills, I believe, since returning off of his thumb injury when Cooper Rush was kind of holding the fort down, and Cooper Rush has had his moments, not just this season, but last season as well, too. And I'm not here saying that Cooper Rush is better than Dak Prescott. I'm just simply saying that Cooper Rush is a very good quarterback. He's proven that over time. And if Dak Prescott, ever was not playing up to par, or God forbid injury happened, knock on wood, I do not wish that upon anybody, Cooper Rush is a very good and serviceable back, and I think he can hold the fort down for an extended period of time. And Dak Prescott's just got to do better. I know that these interceptions that he's had in these last couple of games and really these last couple of weeks has not all been on him. There's definitely been some miscommunication if you've actually been watching the Dallas Cowboys, and I've watched my handful of Cowboys games this year, and I've actually went back and I watched some of the highlights before I actually came and talked on camera. Not all of this is on Dak, but Dak does have to do better. I understand he doesn't have Amari Cooper anymore. He's got guys still like Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard. He's got James Washington, who really is nothing to, rave about. Jalen Tolbert I liked as a late round pick pick, but he hasn't really done much out of South Alabama this year. Then you've obviously got Michael Gallup coming back off injury, and then CeeDee Lamb. There's some good guys there on offense. And then big news for the Cowboys on the offensive side of the ball as well too, is they're going to be getting back their Pro Bowl and All-Pro left tackle, and Tyron Smith back, and he's expected to make his season debut after having a leg injury, which that is going to be huge for the Cowboys offensive line. Hopefully he's not too rusty if you're a Cowboys fan, coming off of a serious injury in which he's missed the last 14 weeks of the NFL season. But Tyron Smith, that's going to be huge to upgrade that offensive line, 8-time Pro Bowler. You're going to move Tyler Smith back in at left guard. That's probably going to be the plan. He was the left tackle that they took in the first round out of Tulsa. They actually took him over Tyler Lindenbaugh out of Iowa, so I thought that was actually a shocker when they took him in the first round. And also, I did forget to mention this really quickly about the Dallas Cowboys. They are a top 5 overall defense. They allow the 3rd fewest points per game in the NFL. They're 2nd in sacks, and they are 3rd in turnover differential. So while they are the 3rd most penalized team in the NFL, they do a great job overall. And like I said, this is a very talented team. Mike McCarthy is a solid coach in the NFL. He's obviously had his success in the past, but I've got to see some more out of the Dallas Cowboys. They are a very good team. I'm not knocking them. But let me talk about their defense quickly. So kind of talking about the Cowboys defense, I do want to say that, yes, while they do have some great blue chip talent, and obviously Micah Parsons, or as Skip Bayless would say, 11 from heaven, is a world-renowned, top-tier, top 10 probably football player in the game. He's the 2nd best edge rusher in the NFL, if you ask me, right there next to Nick Bosa and another guy like Myles Garrett, maybe Von Miller when healthy. Micah Parsons is that guy. We've seen that out of him. He was an elite pass rusher coming out of Penn State, and he absolutely tore it up last season. He's in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. We know just how phenomenal Micah Parsons is, and I cannot overemphasize just how phenomenal it is watching him. The tape, you watch him live on television, it does not matter. He is always popping out on the screen to you. Trayvon Diggs is another guy who is widely ridiculed, and for obvious reasons, coming out of Alabama just a few seasons ago. He's 24 years of age. He's a very good corner. He does have his miscues. He does get burnt a lot because he does take a lot of unwarranted, necessary risks, I would say, defensively. But that's exactly why he's always one of the league leaders in passes deflected and in interceptions, because interceptions is not always the most telling stat. But Trayvon Diggs is a very good defensive player. You still got guys like DeMarcus Lawrence. You got guys like Anthony Barr. You've got a bunch of good and solid players on the Cowboys defense. And I do think that them keeping their core together with Mike McCarthy, Kellen Moore, Dan Quinn, who was a phenomenal defensive coordinator last year, they are a very top tier team. I really do feel like the Dallas Cowboys are a good team. I'm not knocking them. Obviously, they have their criticism, but the Dallas Cowboys are a very good team. I've been talking about them way too damn much. Let's actually talk about the Jaguars a little bit now. So now actually kind of transitioning into the Jacksonville Jaguars, I will talk about them on the offensive side of the ball before I go to the defensive side of the ball. And I have to start with quarterback at the helm, Mr. William Trevor Lawrence himself, aka Mr. Sunshine is what I call him. He has been a revelation of a quarterback. He's been everything that the Jaguars have hoped for a number 1 overall pick, a generational prospect. He has really turned the corner, and since week 9, he's been probably the best quarterback in the NFL. I don't really think that's up for much debate. He's been at least top 3. But let me read you some of Trevor Lawrence's stats since week 9. 1,362 passing yards, 10 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, a 72% completion percentage, which is first among all NFL quarterbacks, 111.7 quarterback passer rating, which is second among all NFL quarterbacks, and Trevor Lawrence on 10-plus yard throws since week 9. He has a 98.7 PFF grade, which is first in the NFL, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions, and 148.5 passer rating, which is number 1 among all NFL quarterbacks. In week 14, he was the AFC Offensive Player of the Week for the 2nd time this year. Earlier was in week 3 versus the LA Chargers, if memory serves me correctly. And Trevor Lawrence was the highest graded quarterback according to PFF in week 14. Trevor Lawrence, Mr. Sunshine, has been playing with poise, precision. He's getting the ball out quickly. He looks like he's having a lot more control and demand of the offense. His fluidity, the way he's throwing the ball, not as much torque, a lot more just comfortable in the pocket and just really taking onus of this offense. It is just so night and day with Trevor Lawrence, man, and he has been an ascension of a quarterback. It is a beautiful thing to watch, to really watch him come into his own, and hopefully the Jaguars can finish out these last couple of weeks and make a late playoff push, because this is the time of the year when teams can get hot, and especially if you've got a quarterback playing on top of his game, it can get scary. But also talking about the Jaguars offense, you had Evan Ingram, who had a career day and a historic day among all tight ends in the NFL. Evan Ingram last weekend versus the Tennessee Titans, 11 receptions, 162 yards, 2 touchdowns. Marvin Jones Jr., Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Travis Etienne really didn't get much going in the run game, and he hasn't these last couple of weeks. But the Jaguars have the skill position guys around Trevor Lawrence in order to be successful. I know that the Jaguars lead the NFL in drops with 28 drops this year. So once the Jaguars do a better job in that department, the Jaguars will take that next step up. And I just can't say enough about the job Doug Peterson, Trevor Lawrence have all done in order to get this offense turning in the right direction. And you really see it. It's very evident in a lot of the guys that bought into the system. Let me kind of talk about the Jaguars defense real quick. Speaking of the Jaguars defense, I do want to talk about a couple of guys that really flashed out to me last week. Josh Allen had that fumble recovery after Shaq Quarterman got that hit on Derrick Henry. Josh Allen recorded his first sack since week 4, I believe. Trayvon Walker got that strip sack, and that was an amazing play by him. You see the physicality. Hopefully Trayvon Walker can go out there and have another good performance, even versus Tyron Smith, who's going to be coming back off of injury, who I already mentioned. And Foyesade Oluokun is the #1 leading tackler in the NFL as of right now. The Jaguars are doing a great job, and the Jaguars defense is #1 in the NFL in passes deflected. The Jaguars got 4 turnovers last weekend defensively versus the Tennessee Titans. They got 3 versus the Kansas City Chiefs. They got 2 versus the Baltimore Ravens. They are coming in bunches right now, and the Jaguars are playing with swagger. They're playing with juice. I know they haven't been perfect. They got a 40-piece dropped on them by the Detroit Lions, but the Jacksonville Jaguars defense has really stepped up to the task. They've really done a much better job, and while they are wildly sporadic, if this defense is playing at the top of their game, and once they get 1 sack, once they get 1 turnover, it always feels like it comes in bunches, and the Jaguars are doing a much better job in that department. The Cowboys offensive line is very good, so I'm very curious to see how the Jaguars front 7 will do versus Dak Prescott, and especially that running game with Tony Pollard and both Ezekiel Elliott coming out of the backfield. But Jaguars defense, I need to see that same level of intensity, especially at home. I need to see it versus the Dallas Cowboys. So I have been talking for a while, and I do just kind of want to give my final thoughts and verdicts with this game. I want to say, as a Jaguars fan, I am not overlooking the Dallas Cowboys. While I might joke about the Dallas Cowboys like a lot of NFL teams do and a lot of the NFL community does, I'm not overlooking this team. I can't say that the Dallas Cowboys aren't overlooking the Jags. I'm sure maybe they are. I'm not sure if they aren't, especially after that eye-opening performance versus the Tennessee Titans. And as a Jaguars fan, I can't just say, oh, well, look at the Dallas Cowboys. They struggle versus the Texans. We should be good. No, we lost to the Texans at home this year, 6-13. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say I don't think that the Cowboys are overlooking the Jaguars. I don't think the Jaguars are overlooking them. And the Jaguars are also wearing black on black for the first time this year, so I'm wearing black on black. This is going to be an extremely competitive and close game down to the wire, and this game is going to come down to who is going to make the critical play and mistake at the very end of the game. Is the defense going to come away with the turnover? Is Dak Prescott or Trevor Lawrence going to have an untimely turnover? What is going to happen? And that's where the momentum of this game is going to go. And all I ask for is that this game is going to be a good competitive football game and that the Jaguars go out there and get a W. I'm not promising that. I'm not predicting that. I really don't know what to expect from this game because both of these teams are extremely talented when both teams are playing at the top of their game. But Cowboys fans, Jaguar fans, I want to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Who do you guys have winning this game? And also give me a score prediction down below. If you guys enjoyed today's video, man, make sure you guys drop me a thumbs up. It takes 1 second and it helps me and the channel out tremendously. And if you guys are new here, consider hitting that subscribe bell to stay tuned for more NBA, UCF, and Jaguars content that I do here on YouTube. And make sure y'all go follow me on my socials, especially on Twitter. I'm very active and I'm on there every single day. The link tree will be in the description down below. But thanks again for sticking around throughout the whole video. Brett James, aka BJ. I'm out, y'all. Go Jags, baby. Peace.